welcome to Darvanalee Designs Studio. For those that don't know, my name's Nicole and today we are here to make block 10 in our foundation paper piecing series. But first of all, if you're new here and you've yet to hit that subscribe button, hit that subscribe button and the little bell icon beside it, and that way you won't miss out on any future posts. And at any given time, while if you're enjoying this video, give it a thumbs up down below, because we always like to know what you're liking. So you might be wondering what block we're making today. It's a little bit of a mouthful to say, but it's super easy to make. It's called the double pinwheel whirl, but this is the block, and as you can see, it's a nice simple block. So let's get started. Okay, so here we are at block 10 and it's called double pinwheel whirls. It's a bit of a mouthful, but the first thing that you need to do is you need to head over to our blog, and there you will find the block 10 and it'll have all your files that you need to download. There's 3 in total, so you've got one that is a layout one, which is what you can see in camera here. You'll also have a colouring in page so you can mess around with some colours, and you will also have a file there for your templates which you need to make the block. You're also going to need some fabric. You're going to need a rotary cutter, a glue pen, some thread snips and paper scissors to cut out your templates, some pins, some quilting rulers, a little piece of cardstock or template plastic works perfect for the way that I do my foundation paper piecing. And when I like to, I don't like to get up and down to the iron to do my pressing, so I use my little hand press. And of course, just in case you make a boo-boo, you need your quick unpick. Alright, so basically what you're going to do is you're going to cut out all your templates. Now, to save a little bit of time and so I don't keep you too long today, I've already done that off camera, and so I can set my layout page and all my fabric and all my tools aside, and I've got number A here to show you what we're doing. Now, if you've only just joined us in this series, I'm using highly contrasted fabrics, as you can see. That is just so you get a really good idea of what we're doing. Okay, so in this you can see your templates, and if you download them exactly the way that they're meant to be, you'll have a light grey, a dark grey and a white area. Now, for anybody that's new to matching colors or anything like that, I suggest that you just get highly contrasting ones here. So you can see here I've got the white, and that is my background. I've got red, that is playing as my light color, and then the black is playing as my dark. So when you are using printed fabrics or anything like that, just lay them down and just see if one plays as a light or a dark fabric. I suggest you go with a nice neutral for your background. It makes it super easy. Then really you only have to pick 2 fabrics that are going to go together. So give that a go and just look for the contrast. Don't worry about the pattern that's in it or anything like that, especially if you're a beginner, because that can really start to make you doubt your choices. So just go for highly contrasted and you'll be right. So you can see here, I tell a lot of my beginners just to write on the background so they know what fabric is going where. So you can see here I've written red, black where the dark grey is, and white where that goes. I've also got BG for background, light or dark, and you can do it any way you like. If you've got floral fabric, you can write light floral, dark floral, whatever. It makes it easy for you to understand where your fabric's got to go. Okay, so once you've downloaded all your templates, you're going to cut them all out, and you can see here that I've actually got extra fabric, extra paper around the outside of my template. So I'm just going to bring that a little bit closer to the camera so you can see. We've got a dark line in here, and then we've got this light line out here, and I've cut it pretty roughly, the excess paper, so that makes me aware that I've got to have my seam allowance. We've had people that have accidentally cut on the dark line, so they've cut away their seam allowance, which then will make your block even smaller. You could still use it, but then you just have to cut all your templates that way. So when it comes to trimming up, and after we've done all our stitching down, we will trim off the excess fabric and the excess paper on this outside line. So just be aware of that when you're trimming out your templates getting ready to use. Alrighty, so I'm just going to move all this out of the way, and then we're going to get stuck into sewing. Okay, so I've just ironed off all that writing that was on there, and we're going to start with A1, okay? And in this case, it is our light fabric. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to flip your template over, and you can't see this on camera, but when I'm looking at it, I can actually see where my A1 is because I've got those darker lines on the template. Now, if you can't see them very clearly or anything like that, you can use a light blocks, or you can hold them up to a light. Now, I know that my A1 has to go in this space here, so I'm going to grab my glue pen, and I'm just going to put, because it's quite a bigger piece, I'm going to put a couple of little dollops of glue there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay my fabric on, and I can see that that is covering that whole area, and it's also giving me a good 1/4 inch seam allowance on that diagonal, so I'm pretty good to go. Now, our next fabric is our black fabric, which is A2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip my template back over, and I'm going to grab my template plastic, and I'm going to lay it on that dark line there, and then I'm going to pull the paper back, and I'm going to create my seam allowance. So basically you can use any sort of ruler, or you can use an 1/4. Now the 1/4 has a little lip on it, and it makes it nice and easy to just butt up against the paper. So that lip is actually measuring 1/4 inch. Now you can just use normal quilting rulers, that's fine. You don't have to have all the tools, especially if you're not sure if you're into foundation paper piecing yet or not. But if you do enjoy it, we have a link down below where you can actually get this. We have them on our website, and for our American viewers, we've got a Amazon link there for you as well. So then what you're going to do is you're going to grab your rotary cutter, and you're basically going to just cut away that excess fabric, and you can see there that I've got that perfect 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I just move my rubbish out of the way and the ruler and everything, and then I flip it over, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my black fabric. Now I also like to keep all my scraps, so these little pieces like this I put into a box that's off camera. I chuck it all in there, and then I can rummage around and I can pull pieces out. So you can see here I've got a black piece of fabric that is from a different project altogether, but it's big enough to use here today. So basically all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my raw edge of my black fabric, and I'm going to line it up on that seam allowance that I just cut before. So I know that I don't have to worry about trying to make sure that it's over that line, or that worry that I might not have enough seam allowance or anything like that. So basically that makes it super easy for me, and then all I need to do is pop a couple of pins in, because this is actually a bigger piece of fabric. It could flop around on me, and I don't want that. So I just put a few pins in. So then what we're going to do is we're going to head over to the sewing machine, and we're going to stitch on this line here. You're going to start about 1 or 2 stitches into this part of the template, and you're going to go 1 or 2 stitches out into the seam allowance, and you're going to reduce your stitch length down to a 2. And the reason we do that is that will help to perforate the paper, ready for when we're going to assemble the quilt. We can remove all our paper then, and it'll make it nice and easy for us. Okay, so we've gone over to the sewing machine and we've sewn that down, and I'll just flip it over so you can see. You can see there's a nice 1/4 inch seam allowance there. So now what you're going to do is you're going to remove your pins, and then lay your template down, and you're going to just flip your fabric over, and then we can get rid of some of this excess fabric. So turn your template back over again, and then grab your template plastic, and basically laying that straight edge on that line, and we're going to put the 3rd piece of our fabric on. Now you can see it's quite a large cut that we've got to make, so I just put my 1/4 inch 1/4 ruler down at the edge of the block, and then I just move it up. Now you would have noticed that I didn't cut all the way on the black fabric, and that's because there's a good decent chunk there, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut around that, and then I can get rid of it. Okay, so we've cut our 1/4 inch seam using our 1/4. Now what we need to do is we need to grab our white fabric, and you can see here I've just grabbed a piece out of the box. Neutral colors like black, white, red, and all that sort of stuff generally have their own box in my sewing room, because I do use a lot of that sort of stuff. So I get these odd shapes that are left out of fat quarters and stuff like that, and then I can just rummage around, and they're perfect for foundation paper piecing. Okay, so again, this is quite a large piece, so I'm going to pop a couple of pins in here just to hold it in place, and all that does is stops this fabric from flipping up or curling under when I go to sew it at the sewing machine. Making sure it's laying nice and flat. Okay, then you're going to flip your template over and you're going to sew that full diagonal all the way across your template. Okay, so we've sewn that one down. We can remove our pins. And then all I'm going to do is just flip my fabric across so all my right sides are facing up. Give that a bit of a smooth and then grab my little hand press and press that down, and that's just made it nice and easy. I don't have to get up and down to the iron, and you can see it doesn't take away from the block or anything like that. It's still nice and smooth. Then I'm going to flip that over, and now what we're going to do is we're going to trim up our template and get rid of all that excess fabric and paper, and then we'll be ready to put all our components together. Okay, so we just grab our ruler, and these rulers that I have in our store, you can see they've got really clearly marked all the 1/4 inch marks. So, and they've got little dots all the way down, so you can line it up all the way without a problem. So what you're going to do is you're going to lay your 1/4 inch part of your ruler onto that dark inner line. Okay, not the outside line but the inner line. If you do it to the outside line, you're actually going to have a bigger block. If you do it to the inside line, so if you place your ruler on the inside line, your block is actually going to be a lot smaller. So make sure that you've got that ruler on that inner dark line, so this line here, not the outer one, this one here. Place that down, and then you will be right to trim off that excess. And then you're going to just do that all the way around the block. And believe me, I've done it. I've accidentally lined up on the wrong spot, and then I've had to remake the block again because I didn't have enough seam allowance. So you can see there that I'm just using my ruler and going all the way around. Okay, so we can set our ruler aside, and there we go. That is the first part of our block. So you've got another 3 templates, and you're going to repeat that with exactly the same way for the remainder of your templates. Okay, so now what you're going to do is you're going to grab your layout page and just set that off to the side so you can just use it as a reference, and then you're going to take your all your components to your block, which you should have 4 in total, and then you're just going to, as the layout suggests, you're going to lay your quarters in that fashion. So we put A here, B is next, then C, and then D. So you can see there that it's matching the layout page. I mean, you can turn it around if you want to, but you are not going to get the same block that you've got there. I mean, it's a good block, don't get me wrong, it's actually a great block. You could play around with it like that if you want to, but we've already got a block very similar to that, so we just want to make sure that we have our blocks orientated the correct way. Okay, and in this case, that is how they go. Alright, so we've got our 4 components and we need to join these together. So the first thing that you want to do is you're going to take template B and you're going to lay that on top of template A. And you can see here that we've got this dark line. Well, that's our stitch line. So basically all you're going to do is you're going to grab yourself a couple of pins and you're going to pin that into place, making sure that your raw edges are lining up. And you can see here that we have a diagonal, and I'm making sure that that is lining up. So if I just pull that back, you can see, I'll pull the black fabric back, you can see those 2 whites are actually butting up together, and that is a good nesting. So what I like to do there is I just grab my pin, and I use fine pins for this, and I just go into the corner and along that seam. Okay, so you can see there I've gone in on the corner and come along that seam, and I know that nothing's going to move on me there. And now I can head over to the sewing machine and I can stitch, making sure that I do a back stitch at the beginning and at the end, and then I'm just going to stitch on that dark line and everything should line up perfectly. Okay, so we've done that. I'm just going to get rid of my tails, and then I'm going to remove my pins. And then you can see there that everything, I've got a nice little point there, everything is lining up perfectly, and I can give that a finger press for now. and set that in place. And now what I'm going to do is repeat it exactly the same thing with this one here. So again, I place them on top of one another, so C on top of D, and then I come down to my point. So you can see there, just by placing it, it doesn't mean that it's going to line up. So you do have to make sure that it's lining up and that your raw edges are also lining up as well. And grab your pin and again go in on that point. Now you are going through some bulk, so just be careful you don't stick yourself and coming out on that seam. Okay, and I know that that's going to give me a nice clean point down at that end. Now you can see here my fabric is moving, so you want to make sure that you're not curling that up and that all your raw edges are aligning up. Pop another pin in and then head over to the sewing machine and do exactly the same thing. Back stitch here and at the end and just stitching right on that line. Okay, so we've sewn that and taken the pins out, and you can see there another perfect point down the bottom here. So I am ready now to sew these components together. So basically all you're going to do is you're going to take row 1 and row 2 and you're going to join them together. So again, you want to make sure that you can nest your seams. So one seam will be going this way and one seam will be going that way. Okay, and that is going to make for a really nice nesting. Okay, and then all you're going to do is you're going to take row 1 and place it on top of row 2. Now I always start in the middle, okay, and you can see there's a little bit of bulk, so it's going to make it a little bit tricky to get a pin through. Doable, but I like to use my wonder clips at this point. Okay, and I just place them in, so you can see there, I'm not sure if I can get that on camera, but you can see there that those are nesting up really nicely. And then I just place the wonder clip on, and I know that that's not going to move on me now, and now I can muck around with the rest of it. And in this case I just put pins down this end because it's still easy enough to get through. Again, we've got some edges that we've got to make sure that aren't curling up or anything like that, so just place your pins in to hold it in place. There's no diagonals to worry about this time. You can see here I've got a little bit of a gap, so it's telling me that something has shifted or isn't sitting quite right. So I'll just check my center ones again, and that's the one that I'm concerned the most about, is my center ones, because I want them not to lose any points or anything like that. So now that's sitting a lot better, and I can pop another pin in, and I can smooth this one out a little bit more, and again popping pins in where needed. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to head over to the sewing machine again. We're going to do a back stitch here, and we're going to sew right along that solid line and doing a back stitch here at the end, and then our block is complete. Okay, so that's all sewn now, and you can remove all your tails and any excess threads that you've got there, get rid of those. Okay, so give that a really good press and leave the paper on it and set it aside with the rest of your blocks. And that's it. That is the double pinwheel whirls, which is a bit of a mouthful, finished and done. Okay, so thank you so much for joining us today. I really do hope that you enjoyed making block 10. Really quick and simple to go together. You could just imagine a whole quilt made with it. It would look absolutely stunning. So if you like this video today, give us a thumbs up down below, hit that subscribe button and the little bell icon beside it, and that way you won't miss out on any future posts. For those that don't know, my name's Nicole Reid for Darvanalee Designs Studio, and I'll see you all again next time. Bye for now.